Sonic Lab
TV.
Hi, I'm Rich, engineer at Studio Paranormal, and today I'm looking at this, the VRM box from Focusrite. Sorry, that was actually the box for the VRM box. This is the real thing.
Tiny.
Yeah, it is tiny. So what this is an audio interface which is specialized purely for listening to music on headphones. And you can do that in two ways. You can either use it as an audio interface by powering it through USB into your Mac or computer, or you can use the SPDIF input to come in from another audio interface and monitor your mix from there. And this comes with some software to help you do that, which is on our screen currently. So this is the software. You can see a little virtual room there, a virtual studio, and you can choose through some little virtual speakers on the side here. And let's just explain what's going on. The virtual rooms, which we have a professional studio, a bedroom and a living room, are created using mathematical formulas. And then the response of the speakers is actually simulated by using convolution impulse responses. So basically what you're getting is, through your headphones, the idea of being in a virtual room listening to virtual speakers that might kind of point out if there's any holes in your mix, or if you've got any frequencies that are far too kind of present in your mix, basically.
So what sort of speakers have we got?
You've got different speakers in different rooms. So here we've got Japanese
studio. Right.
Yep, Japanese White Classic, which we could probably all tell is a pair of Yamaha NS10Ms, which we actually have here. KRK Rocket 6, so kind of the standard at the moment for bedroom producers, mixing dubstep, etc. And then in the living room, we've just got some unnamed hi-fi speakers, which just give you a slightly kind of different response to your music.
So it's a good idea to listen on lots of different monitors, right?
Yeah, obviously, as you probably know, when you're mixing, you don't just want to trust one set of speakers. So what this does is give you the kind of virtual ability to go and listen in lots of different spaces. If you're on a bit of a budget, this costs about 80 quid. So if you've got a nice pair of cans, then potentially you could do a mix at home and then listen in lots of different environments on lots of different speakers, just to see where you might be going wrong with your mix.
Speaking of cans, what cans are those?
Yeah, we've been given these by Focusrite, KRK KNS 8400s. So I think these were about 130, 140 quid. A very nice set of, and comfortable set of headphones as well, by the way.
So, in use, kind of explain how it works.
Okay, well, I've been using this in Pro Tools. So this is a mix I've been working on. And hopefully you should be able to get some signal now. Should be hearing something.
So this is the final mix?
Yeah, so at the moment I've got this on British 90s hi-fi in a living room. And
can you bypass it and use it just as a digital?
Yeah, you can bypass it and just use it as a headphone amp as well, which is handy. And you can do that by clicking this button here.
So then it just becomes alright.
Yeah, so it just becomes a headphone amp. So now the actual reference monitoring is on. That's me, apparently. This is my room. And because there's lots of furniture in that room, and it's not a massive room, I would kind of think that there should be a lot of around 100 hertz, maybe 200 hertz bouncing around in there. And my opinion is that this mix might have a bit too much of that in it anyway. And if I put my headphones on, yeah, I can hear the bass wobbling around, and the kick drum doesn't sound too tight in my opinion either. So now what I would do, that's an actual wave. If I was working on my mix, I would maybe just scoop about 120 hertz out of the bass, and that would give me a good indication of that. But that's only one set of speakers. So if I change speakers, go into Professional Studio, Japanese White Classic, so Yamaha NS10s. Luckily for myself, I have a set of these in the studio anyway, but in my opinion, these speakers should kind of tell you if you've got some cymbals that sound a bit tinny or an acoustic guitar that sounds a bit naff. So I'm listening to that now. So yeah, in my ears, in my headphones, cymbals actually sound quite nice still, and the mix still sounds quite vibey, and actually quite similar to how the mix did sound on these speakers in the first place. The one thing that is a little bit odd about the virtual referencing monitoring, I think, is possibly something to do with the mathematical formulas of the room. The space you're in does sound a bit odd, but I think the way they've actually sampled the speakers is quite true and does sound quite good. So I should probably say at this point that you are listening to the output of the VRM box. It's going through a bit of a chain of different bits of equipment though, and obviously when it's compressed for viewing on the web, the sound that you're hearing is probably not going to be the same sound that I'm hearing on these headphones, so please do bear that in mind. Right, so we'll listen to a different song. This is a song by a producer in Hatfield called Odgebox. He's just released his EP, and I've got one of the tracks from it to review. And what we're going to do is just cycle through some different rooms, different speakers, just to see how it sounds. I know for a fact that the mix is spot on, so we'll just see what the software says about it. First of all, we've got computer desktop speakers, so this should sound really, really terrible if there's anything wrong with the mix. I mean, so to me, that just sounds like music, any mix playing through a set of not fantastic computer monitors that you could get from PC World.
Let's listen to more speakers.
Yeah. So here's what it sounds like through a TV. Yeah, again, there's a lot of like about 500 hertz in there, but it doesn't sound terrible, showing that it is probably a good mix. On hi-fi speakers in a small room, no. Bottom end is still tight. And let's give it on Rocket 6s. So this is what a lot of people actually choose to mix this kind of music on. You might be on a budget in a room this size. And again, that sounds pretty good, I've got to say. So in a slightly different room then, professional studio. And let's choose a pair of Genelecs. So how does that sound in my ears? Yeah, again, everything still sounds great. I really can't fault this guy's production, to be honest, and neither can the software, so there you go. Yeah, it's not something I'd trust 100% to say, you know, your mix is definitely sounding great in all of these spaces. The best thing to do would obviously be to try and listen to your mix in as many different environments as you can and on speakers that you know very well. But the more you use this gear, the more you'll probably get used to it and the more it will help you do your final mixes.
So is it possible to set it up so you can monitor on your speakers and also to monitor from through the VRM box? So, I mean, how have we got it set up here, for instance?
Yeah, well, in Pro Tools at the moment, I've got my actual, see where my cursor is there, I'm going out of Out 1 and 2 on my desk, but then I've also got a send, and this is an auxiliary send in Pro Tools, which is going to this channel here.
Which is the SP diff.
Yeah, and so that's going out through SPDIF, which is going into my ears, and you know, it's as simple as that basically to set up.
So you're using the hardware, the Digidesign hardware to monitor the mix as usual.
Yeah.
But you're also sending out to the VRM box to be able to.
Yeah, exactly. So you know that works fine if I'm doing everything in the box as well. And if you say had 20 channels of audio in there, you could send all of those to a master fader through an auxiliary and do exactly the same thing. So it's not just one channel that you can monitor.
Excellent. So overall opinions of this. I mean, what's the sound of the headphone amp like for starters?
Yeah, it's a good sounding headphone amp and boosts up to a dynamic range of, let me remember this, 108 decibels. That was from my head, not a piece of paper. My first impression actually when I kind of saw this at NAMM in January was what a kind of cool thing this would be for bedroom producers who maybe have a tiny little room they're working in and not a perfect acoustic space. And I still kind of, I hold that opinion. A lot of people I've spoken to have maybe trashed it slightly. And it's okay if you're working in a nice big studio and you've got loads of different nice speakers to reference your work on, but this is really for people who don't have that. And like I said, it's not to be trusted 100%. It is a science, it's not an exact science. But for kind of hearing where there are holes in your mix, especially if you've got too much bass in your mix, then this is actually a really good little tool.
But I guess if you do need a reasonably good pair of headphones to be able to make sure you get it.
Yeah, I mean that is another main thing. You wouldn't be able to do this with a set of iPod earphones or even a kind of 40 or 50 quid set of studio headphones. You would have to have a decent set of cans like this. But a lot of people do who are mixing in bedrooms. And yeah, if you've got the decent set of headphones, then this is probably a better investment than buying 2 or 3 sets of monitors. That's going to set you back a lot of money.